Hello everybody from Plant Reviews UK. Today is Friday night, the 13th of October, and I'm very pleased after coming back home after a night out. I found that my Epiphyllum pumilum is blooming. This wonderful species that looks almost like a kind of fern. You might think that looks, I don't know, like a Microsorum fern. It's actually a cactus, and you wouldn't recognize the typical shape of the cactus because the stem of the plant is actually very flattened and narrow, and what is actually the stem of the plant looks very much like the leaves. And you can see that actually the stem extends in some parts, and it starts growing new segments as well. Even if the overall shape, again, rather than being rather than looking really like a cactus, looks really like a kind of a different plant. The stems can be actually quite long. Each segment is about I think about probably 78 centimeter long, but I suppose they can grow even longer, and new segments develop on top of the others. Well, more than on top, really, on the sides. You can see, for example, on this stem, it's growing new more stems here. And also on the same stems, flowers on the stems, also flowers are born. The species Epiphyllum means above the leaf. Probably in the etymology, the meaning of the name, the scientific name, is due to the fact that this type of plants, the epiphyllums, the genus Epiphyllum, grows generally as epiphyte. That means above other plants, usually above other trees. And they grow usually in pretty humid conditions in forest. Indeed, these cacti are for these cacti, it's particularly important to water them regularly. So not keeping the compost excessively waterlogged. They definitely don't like to be wet all the time, but do not let dry out for too long, otherwise the stems will start shrivel, and at some point can be actually very difficult the recovery of the plant. Usually I tend to water these plants once a week in summer and once every 2 to 3 weeks in winter. I've been keeping this plant from I think about probably 10 months or so. It was already quite big and it developed the new stems, but unfortunately it didn't flower, honestly, until today, because I don't think I was giving the best condition to the plant. I didn't fertilize it really as regularly as I should, and also I kept this plant quite far from a south-facing window. It is true that this plant in particular prefers a semi-shade, so putting it on a south-facing window directly on a windowsill in a south-facing window, or in proximity of a south-facing window would have not been the ideal condition, because the leaves of this plant actually can burn very quickly if they are in full sun all day long. But I think a much better position would have been an east-facing windowsill. Again, I live in the UK, so Northern Hemisphere, and the south-facing windowsill in the Northern Hemisphere are the ones actually that can get the most of the sun, especially in summer. It can be very detrimental to plants that do not really like direct sunlight. Again, this is very different from many other cacti that usually need as much sun as possible. But again, this plant usually grows in forests above other plants, so the keeping of this plant is more like an orchid than a cactus, and indeed the water also need to be quite free draining, but not as free draining as a cactus, need anyway to keep some moisture as well. The name actually of these epiphyllums indeed is also, they're also called orchid cactus, because not only because they grow on other plant like many orchids do, many species of orchids are actually epiphytic plants, but also because of their amazingly beautiful flowers. This one is called Epiphyllum pumilum. Pumilum means small in Latin, and the word pumilum was given, well, the specific epithet was given to this plant because the flowers are actually pretty small in comparison to other members of the genus Epiphyllum. In particular, you can see in comparison to my hand, they are probably about maybe 7 or 8 centimeters across, but epiphyllums flowers can be even like 20 and 20, more than 20 centimeters across. So they are actually pretty huge flowers, and also they can smell amazingly. I've read that just one flower can fill up the room with scent. This one has just bloomed today, and it has a very nice fragrance, but really doesn't fill up the room. I think one of the reasons possibly is because again, I don't provide this plant with the best lighting condition or fertilizer. So even with that, I'm obviously very pleased it produced at least one flower. But the scent, usually fragrance, is very affected if the plant is not growing in optimal conditions. Indeed, I've had this experience with many orchids. Even very fragrant orchids might have a very little scent or no scent at all if they're not grown properly when they bloom. So they're still able to manage to bloom sometimes, but even if they bloom, if conditions are not ideal, the fragrance is not as good as it should be. Now, I don't know if this plant has grown, this flower is a very young plant and this is the first time it bloomed. I can't really see any, well, again, this year never bloomed for me, and I'm not too sure if this plant was already blooming sides before actually I purchased it. However, I can tell you that even now that my nose is about probably 20 centimeters from the flower, I can't detect any scent. I really need to put my nose inside the flower, and describing the fragrance in this plant is very difficult. It is kind of sweet and floral. It is definitely... Oh, okay, now I know what it smells like. It smells precisely like the sea lily, the sea daffodil, the Pancratium maritimum. I have a video on my channel. It's a beautiful species of plant that grows on the beaches in the Mediterranean Sea and around the Mediterranean Sea, possibly in the Eastern Atlantic as well. I'm not sure if it grows also on the beaches on the Black Sea, but basically the sea lily, also called sea daffodil, the Pancratium maritimum, is one of my favorite flowers because it is a very elegant flower. Looks like an ismene or like an hymenocallis. It's a bit shorter than them, and the fragrance is very, very similar to the Epiphyllum pumilum. Really, really light, but floral and sweet. Very, very nice. And the plant, kind of weirdly, is also fully white. Well, maybe not kind of weirdly, because actually, evidently, this scent attracts a lot nocturnal pollinators as well. And nocturnal pollinators tend to favor white flowers because they contrast very well against the dark background of the leaves or the trees, or anyway, in the darkness, white flowers really stand out, so it's easier for pollinators to reach them. The Epiphyllum flower is composed of several whorls of petals. I think they are petals. I'm not too sure if I can call them petals. Maybe these ones are the sepals. Yes, these small ones, and then the rest should be petals, and the color is white, pure white. There's a lot of anthers around and a central stigma, star-shaped. The longevity of these flowers, unfortunately, is very short. I have read that they usually last only about 24 hours, so really not much not long to enjoy them, but really even if for such a short time, they're absolutely plants worth having. And remember that Epiphyllum pumilum, yes, has a pretty small flowers. I thought the fragrance would have been a lot more intense, because I read that even one flower of Epiphyllum pumilum can fill the entire room. But again, you have to grow it properly. I really would recommend a much better lighting than me. Don't put it at the back of a room like me. Put it closer to a windowsill. My south-facing windowsill is here, and I should have probably put it a bit closer, yeah, maybe where my other plants are, or maybe near the television, because I would have get a lot more sun anyway. But, well, next year I'll try to do better. But I really wanted my viewers to enjoy the beauty of this plant, and in particular of this flower. The flower The flower is actually a very long tube. Is actually bigger than the size of the flower. It should be at least about 10 centimeters long, and the flowers again is about 7 or 8 centimeters across. About this plant, the compost, I think is in compost with is like normal compost. I didn't see any perlite, so I have to be very careful in watering this plant to ensure that, sorry, a bit of cough, doesn't get too wet. However, I really would recommend for this plant some free draining compost, but can still able to keep some moisture. So I would say add to normal garden compost some vermiculite, so you are more like free to water the plant and ensure that yes, the compost keeps moist but not too wet. With my plant I've always to be very careful of the watering, so I always put a finger in quite deep in the ground to see how the hydration of the compost is like. Other than that, I have to say it's a stunning plant. It comes from Mexico and Guatemala, so definitely in the UK it's not a plant to grow outside in winter, and you can bring it outside in summer. I'm sure will be great in a semi-shade position, will be absolutely amazing, will do to the plant a lot of good to bring it outside and have some nice sun in the morning, obviously repairing it when the sun is too strong. But I'm really pleased that even if the growing conditions indoor were not ideal, the plant was still able to grow, produce some new growths, and also produce this beautiful flower. I think I have told you the most important characteristics of the plants, of this plant as well as I grow it. About the availability, is not very difficult to find, but it's not particularly common either. So I never found Epiphyllum pumilum in garden centers, but I found a couple of places where you can buy it online, and if you have difficulties, please let me know in the comments below the video, and I will do my best to find one for you and recommend you on the channel if there is any seller available, if you are interested to purchase this wonderful wonderful plant. So I'm trying to putting the flower against a dark background, so probably, yeah, you have a bit of a view how a moth is able to, yeah, to see the flower against a dark background. You can see that really glows against the dark. As usual, thank you very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and again, if you have any information, like to have any information more that I forgot, or you think I need to give some more details, please let me know, and I will be more than happy to give you any possible information. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.